All right. Hey guys, I am Shauna Chambers, and you are listening to The Gap, and where we are trying to gain authentic perspective. So, we're taking 40 days to have 40 conversations with 40 different people and try to gain some authentic perspective, learn to listen a little bit more, and try to fill in that gap. So, I'm trying to find as many people on the spectrum of everything to dive in and talk about just life. Today I have Mio Hernandez with me, and she is another Princeton person, and I absolutely love my Princeton people. They will always have a special place in my heart. So, Mio, thank you for hopping on again, because actually last week we did this interview and I forgot to record it. So I am recording. I have checked 3 times already that I'm recording. So, hey, Mio, thanks for hopping on again. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mio Hernandez. Let me introduce my husband first, right? I'm married. I'm happily married. I did forget about him last Friday, so I'm going to make sure I mention him. I'm happily married to my childhood sweetheart. We have 2 beautiful children. One is 8, one is 2. She's a handful. Let me tell you one thing with parenting. You think you figured out the first time around, then you have a second one and you don't know anything. They're both 2 different individuals and I love them equally. They're amazing in their own way. I call one is the calm, which is the oldest. He's very calm, cool, collective. And then I have my storm, and she
Hmm.
always keeps us in our toes. But we're so grateful. They both, all 4 of us encompass our family, and that's a beautiful thing. And I'm blessed to have us as a family unit. I love my family. I'm big on my family. I'm also professionally, I am what's called a seat counselor. I work for a college, a CUNY college in New York City. It's in Jamaica, Queens. And I also live in Queens. And I'm also a therapist. So I also work for a clinic as well as a therapist. So I do a lot of mental health, and even in my 9 to 5 employment, I also do, there's a lot of mental health going on there as well. But we're more academic than that aspect, but people always need to be heard. And I think that's very important. I'm a ruling elder at our church, which is in Brooklyn, Williamsburg, Brooklyn. That's where I'm from. I love Brooklyn. I love Williamsburg. I love my Queens as well. And I'm a New Yorker at heart. I love New York.
And she is the most fashion trendy person I probably know. Absolutely beautiful inside and out. If I could, I would have her dress me all the time. um, so Mio, if you are having like a really bad day and you needed to go somewhere, you can't cook, you need to go somewhere and pick up something. What restaurant would you go to and what would you order?
Okay, so in our neighborhood, we have a lot of food. It's a lot of Hispanic food. I'm a big, and I love this particular restaurant just because, like I said, I'm big on family and I have a lot of family memories there. I've been living in this neighborhood for 8 years. And every time I think of important moments like birthdays, it just has birthdays, special events. This place is like a place that I hold dear to my heart. It's called Mi Pequeña Colombia. And if you want good, authentic Colombian food, I would recommend it. There's a lot of like rice and beans, and it's huge portions. And I promise you that 2 people could eat from one plate, and it's reasonable for New York prices because New York is expensive, but it's reasonable. Well, for us, it's considered reasonable. And if you want your rice, your beans, your meats, or your chicken, you can definitely get that all in there. It's an amazing restaurant. My favorite one.
I love
Female.
it. So if you're up that way in New York, and in Queens, right? It's in Queens, or no,
Yeah.
it's in Brooklyn.
No, Jackson Heights, Queens. Is in Jackson
Okay.
Heights,
All
Queens.
right. You need to go check that out if you are looking for some good, authentic Colombian food. You can never go wrong with rice and beans. I love me some rice and beans. Um, so I know that your specialty is mental health, and looking back at this past year, a lot of people's mental health has been pushed to the brink, some to the breaking point, unfortunately. But I want to ask you, like, how important do you think mental health is, not only to adults, but to young people as well.
I think is an extremely important. um, Young people, and I also speak to the parents as well, be aware, because the youth are dealing with a lot. Unfortunately for them, social media it's a great thing, and I'm a big, I believe that there's the benefits in social media, but it's also detrimental, and it impacts the youth a lot. You know, there's things that like in my youth that I was not dealing with that they are dealing with, and they're inundated with this information. Most of it, sometimes it can be negative information or unrealistic society ideologies, right? That unexpected, like, expectations, and it triggers them. It truly triggers them, and I see it all the time. So in essence, I think that mental health is crucial for everyone, right? Like, there's a lot going on, and we have to be aware of these things, and we have to be mindful of it, because it's impacting everyone,
Mhm.
especially the youth. I don't know how is it over there, but over here, some of our youth are still doing remote learning, and they can't socialize anymore, right? You can't socialize, and we live in apartments. Not everyone, but a lot of people live in apartments in New York, and it's a lot. These youth are really going through a lot.
Yeah, especially like, I mean, I'm thankful that we live in the area. Whenever I was talking to Mike, and about their lockdown, whenever they weren't even allowed to go outside but once a day, whenever it first started. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad that we have these little neighborhoods, and like I have a little backyard and everything like that. So thankful. I know everybody's struggles and storms are different, and what's hard for someone might not be hard on another, but I can't imagine me having the house that I have living in New York during these times. Um, I mean, or any type of big city, that they have to shut down and, well, and really not have as much freedom as we do over here. Even though we're just a couple states away. Um, you know, I think that we can both agree that like mental health, if you don't take care of it, it can affect your physical health as well. Um, and that's why in so many people, especially, I'm glad that it's starting to be talked about a lot more, because I know that I've been to counselors and therapists and all that, and it always helps me to just get it out. And that's even whenever I wasn't going through anything in my life. But um, what do you like? What are some like ways that they can take care of like their mental health? So, or maybe even signs. I know we didn't talk about this last time, but like maybe even signs that you might need to get your mental health checked. Um,
Well, we can discuss. So there's different ways, right?
yeah.
So if you're unable to eat, right? If you can't get out of bed, if you truly can't get out of bed, if you lose lack of motivation, or you feel even suicidal ideations, like you just don't want to be here anymore.
Hmm.
Um, any of the you feel anger, right? Sometimes, because it depends. There's different symptoms depending on what condition, what we're discussing, right? So even displaced anger, like, why am I always angry? Why am I always crying? Why am I just not happy? All these things, and then it's when we have to start thinking, like, if I really can get out, or why am I overeating or not eating, right? So it can be different things depending on the predicament, on the situation. Everyone is different,
Yeah.
but you know your body, right? We know ourselves, and we know when something is changing. And when something is changing, and we have to be aware of it. Once we're aware of it, we need to ask for help. If it's a parent, or it's someone, whoever you can, ask for help. There's always going to be someone there that should be able to assist you or get you the help you need. And the help is there.
Oh,
Mental health
yes.
is big right now. So the help is there. There's hotlines, there's suicide hotlines, there's self-harm hotlines. Um, there's so many. You just have to ask. Just open your mouth. We all know our bodies. We all know when we feeling something that's just not right. And right now with this year, There's a lot of times that maybe people feel that something's not right and they don't know what to do. We start with asking for help. Even if we don't know what to do, we ask for help and we
Yes.
go from there.
And like, I know sometimes it's hard to check ourselves,
Mhm,
especially when like it's in times where we are lashing out at other people
mm,
and we're like, and at the time we're like, oh yeah, they deserved it. But then whenever you take a second, you're like, why in the world did I snap? Um, Even little things like that are signs, and sometimes we need to be checked. And just because you get help or you seek, mental health professionals, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. We are all dealing through stuff and we all need people. Like you can not survive this world alone. God didn't make us that way. God didn't make us to be isolated or anything like that. So I feel like that's the reason why 2020, 2021 has been such a hard thing for us, because that's not what we were made for. We were not made to be isolated. And here we are forced to be isolated. Um, and for our own benefit, like, to protect us, but don't think that uh there's something wrong with you.
mhm,
You got to take care of yourself. Um, Even if it's just like the counselors at high school at your schools,
mhm.
reach out. We are just starting back in person, just starting. So it's transitioning back. So it's another change, because it's not going to be like it was. So it's another change that they're going to have to go through. And but there's resources there. And of course, um, if you don't know anything, shoot a message. I'm going to be placing little things in the show notes so you will have um, ways to reach out if you need to reach out and don't have anybody. Um, but okay, so what do you think are so I feel like especially nowadays, like including with mental health, self-care goes hand in hand. Um, so what are some ways that maybe the kids or adults, whoever's listening, um, could practice self-care in order to help their mental health?
So I always tell clients, like first you have to find out what is your interests are, right? Because what might work for me may not work for Shauna, right? So we have to think about that. Because we cannot put everyone in one, like we don't all fit, one glove fits all, basically. So what is it that we like, right? Some of us, when we upset, we like to listen to music. There's certain music that triggers some happy thoughts in our head. Or when we're sad, there's certain music that we love that uplifts our feet, our how we feel. Great. Journaling. Some of us love to write, right? Some of us like to read a book and engulf ourselves within a book. Great. Working out. Some people like to go outside for walks and just take walks or actually working out. You have to find, some people like to learn new recipes and that's great, right? So we have to find what is it. Sometimes if we overly angry, we might need to just take some breathing, right? Like breathe, count to 20, do meditation. At one point I was even listening to meditation to put me to sleep because I
Mm,
wasn't able to go to sleep at night. And it was some podcast I found where it was meditating to me and reading me a Bible verse, and it was helping me, right? So we need to find what helps us, what gives us comfort, and what works well for us. And I always say this, and keep this in mind, is what works this week. So let's say working out works for me this week and it helps me with how I'm feeling for my self-care. It may not work next week. So it's always good
mm,
to have different things because we're human and we get tired. So if
yeah.
working is working for me this week, maybe next week is listening to music and just dancing, right? So just have a list of things that maybe making a grateful list. Like this is what I'm grateful for. And there's days where when I make my grateful list, I might not be as grateful, but at least if you put that one, you start manifesting this and just do what works best for you.
And I like that. It's crazy because, you said something about the meditation right before you went to sleep. And I was like, oh, during one of my periods, like I would listen to just a little bit of a slower worship music. And it was the only thing that would get me to sleep, only thing. But then But then like 2 weeks later, if it was on, I was up. I
Mm-hmm.
was up. So like it constantly changes, and don't think like you can't switch it up. If journaling helps you one day, it might not help you the next day. If playing music or painting or anything like that works for you one day, you're not a one size fits all. I mean, it's just like our weight, it always fluctuates. Like you're not going to wear the same clothes, same size for the rest of your life. You're going to go in and out, in and out, in and out, and it's fine. But don't try to fit yourself into this one little tiny circle, because it's not going to fit sometimes, and then you're going to get frustrated. So I like that you touch base, like it's not the same thing every
Every
single time.
It won't be. Mm-mm.
Because there's sometimes that I'm like, I need to blare my music. I need to blare my music and dance it out. I will dance it out and I'll scream and sing at the top of my lungs. And the next day, I'm like, I don't even want to turn on the music.
Mhm.
I don't even want to turn on the music. It's just going to weigh me down even more, because I feel like I don't even, like, if I don't have the energy to do that, then why would I even try? Like, it's just listen to your mind, listen to your body, um, and find what works. So, Mio, have you ever been in a place where your mental health was bad? And if you have, how did you get out of it?
Well, when the pandemic started, so anyone that knows me knows that I've always been career driven. I like to separate everything. So my family life is separate from my career. My career is separate from my and they all tinkle into each other. But once I walk out of the building, I'm not a counselor anymore. I become a mom and a wife and etc. And of course, like I said, sometimes it trinkles, but to an extent, right? Now, once the pandemic hit, everything ended up being in one place because I work from home now. I take care of my 2-year-old. My son was home. My husband was out working because he's considered an essential worker. So he was gone from the beginning. He was never home. He never had the opportunity of being home, right? He didn't have that luxury. That's a luxury that I guess I could say I could take for granted because I was able to stay home. He's always had to be at work. And but it put a lot of stress on me because I had to deal with a 2-year-old, 2.5 year old. And if you have a toddler, you know they are a handful.
Mm-hmm.
I did say my toddler is a handful, period. So there's that. So she's extra of a handful. I have my son. My daughter also needs services. So it was just a lot. And I was like, there were times where I thought I was getting panic. I was going to get a panic attack because I just couldn't. And I didn't have the help. I didn't have the help. My husband wasn't here. It's not, so it was just, I had to work both my jobs and be a mom and do all these things in this apartment. Right. I didn't have a yard to take my kids to, right? Like there was no freedom. There was no, we can't go outside. So it was just, I was stuck in this and it's a lot, even for a person that knows mental health, that is trained in mental health. I felt it. I felt it. I had a little, there was times where I thought I was going to get anxiety and I was going to get panic attacks. And I felt the panic, and I had to basically make myself work through that. I had to become my own therapist, which
Mm-hmm.
is in my own mind. And that's when I started working out every day. I don't need to work out. I work out for my self-care. And I always say that I don't work out because I have to. I work out because of my self-care. I listen to music. If it wasn't, like I said, and I know sometimes working out might not be it, so then I started listening to music. Sometimes it's meditation. Sometimes it will be I made a new recipes. I learned some new recipes throughout this pandemic. Or it can be even just a reflection with the Lord. Whatever it was at that moment, what I needed, I did it for myself. I did it for my self-care.
I like that. I like that. And working through it, like, um, you know, I know that whenever I work out, like I'm like doing this program, and there's days that I don't want, like I literally do not want to, but I know at the end of the workout, like I'm going to feel so much better. Like even it doesn't matter if I'm tired or if I'm sore, if I'm just not in the right mental state. I like it because this girl that that is, leading the program, she said one time, like, it's okay if you don't, like, giving it your all one day, you might be able to finish everything and still like have the energy to, and then in like the next week, you might not even get through one round. But
Mhm.
the thing about it is you still gave it your best. And so it's like knowing that every day is going to be different, but showing up, continuously showing up for yourself. Um, some days are going to be harder. Just because you show up with for yourself every single day doesn't mean it gets easier. It just means that you are more disciplined to take care of yourself and put yourself knowing like, if I don't take care of myself, I can't take it for, I can't, I can't give the world what it needs from me. So you got to take care of yourself. You got to show up for yourself even whenever you don't want to. Even when you don't want to. Um so um I know that this is something we talked about last week and it's not even in the questions, but I don't even know how we did it. But you talked about how you went through a phase where, well, not a phase, but you went through a season where you didn't really believe. You totally didn't believe. Um, didn't go to church, nothing. Um, why was that?
That was during my college years. Um, I got engulfed in college, right? So I got engulfed in the science, right? Like there's, I think I took a philosophy class and it was all about logic and, they questioned God too. And I was like, this makes sense. All these things. And then I'm like, I wanted to be more, I felt naive. This was very naive of me. And I was young and naive and ignorant. I felt that if you were going to be educated, you couldn't really have faith, right? They didn't coincide. They didn't collide. They didn't go together. They collided. They didn't go together. So I believe that I'm going to stick to the education and the logic aspects of things and believe in that aspect of things. Um, but and then even my mom would always have her. My mom was very big into her church, the church that we go to, our church, our home church. She would have her prayer groups and she would have all these things and she was always praying for me, and I was like, Mom, I don't need it, I'm fine, you do what you're doing and I'm going to do what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I decided, I remember going to church, to our church, and the pastor was preaching, and the pastor that was preaching, he was very well versed, very educated. He used his faith with his education and he made it work. And I realized from him that you can be educated, you can have college degrees, you can be well versed, you can be a social activist, because he's a social justice activist. He's very articulate, he has it all, and he also is a man of faith, of huge faith.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to him, and I always say this, he married me, he baptized our son. He's a person that any book he'll recommend me, I'll read it, because I have so much respect for him, because he taught me that you can be both and there's nothing wrong with being both. he
Is
he 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 embedded that in us, and because of him I am where I am when it comes to church.
um what church do you go to?
The First Spanish Presbyterian Church of Brooklyn. It's
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I know that I didn't ask that last week. And then I was talking about how awesome our conversation was. And someone was like, oh yeah, like what church does she go to? And I was like, I didn't even think to ask that. Um, so I was like, yes, I have to ask it. But I think that whenever you're in college or in high school or, in those seasons where you're so easily,
mm-hmm,
and not like so easily swayed, but whenever you surround yourself with people um who you surround yourself with, it almost, you start to mirror it even whenever you don't even realize that you're mirroring it and whatever, reflecting it. And like then next thing you know, like I told them, I'm like, someone who was doubting their faith, one of my youth that was doubting their faith, I said, make sure that you're talking to us about your doubts so we can like dive in and really wrestle with it, because I want you to wrestle with it. I want you to wrestle with it, because here's the thing, you're going to come out and you're going to come out stronger. But if you are wrestling with it with people who don't believe, they're going to feed that doubt. And they're
Mm-hmm.
going to feed they're going to feed what you thought, that little tiny seed that was planted of doubt is going to just manifest, and it's just going to take over. And then all of a sudden you're going to see, oh yeah, I totally don't believe. And it'll happen. It doesn't have to happen. It can happen gradually, or it could literally happen overnight. It just depends on your situation. But so make sure that you're talking with people that are like-minded, that like, and I'm not saying like-minded like think exactly like you, because we always talk about how everybody needs to be have their own different opinions. That's the reason, the purpose of this podcast is to gain authentic perspective, because I never like to push my beliefs on my youth. I say I want to help them build their own beliefs, and what they think is right and wrong, and all of that. But make sure that everybody at your table is, that looks differently, thinks differently, has different things, but don't let them feed that doubt. Help them, let them like help you kind of get to the root of it and see what sparked it and go from there. But don't let them ever feed it to where it manifests. Talk to the right people. So, what is your favorite story or lesson in the Bible?
That's how we got into this.
Oh, it is. It is. Okay.
My favorite lesson is Sal,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now I remember.
because Sal prosecuted Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I was not like Sal. I'm nowhere near that bad. Like I was not that bad. But like I said before, my mom used to invite people over. Like they used to have these prayer groups at home, and I'll be like, Mom, I don't want them here. Like, what are you doing this? Like this is like, and I used to do all these faces, and I was really condescending. I was a total I was not the best person during those years with my church family. That's my family now. Um, and 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 looking into it, I was like, that's right. It resonates how I behave to an extent to Sal, right? Because I prosecuted them, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
as in depth as he did, obviously, but and then from there I turned into Paul. So I had that transition into Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And then even with every obstacle, of course I didn't have all the obstacles that Paul has, as we know all his obstacles. Every obstacle I do have since then, it strengthens our faith.
Mm-hmm.
It makes us stronger. So that's why I resonate so much with this story, and this story always holds dear to my heart, because and I also believe that people can change. I know people can change. um I don't believe that people, just because they do certain things, they're not able to change. Yes, we should try to give as much grace and mercy to people, because I do believe in change and I can see the change, and I am a change. I made the big change, and that's why that story holds dear to me.
I love that. Yes, I think that it is true. I think we all have gone through moments where we're like, I don't even I don't even want to even speak about like the things that I used to do or say, or how I treated people, some people, or anything like that. Like we all have those moments where we're like, man, we're like embarrassed to even talk about it. Like that's me. Um, Especially me working with the youth sometimes. I'm like, I I don't want I don't want to talk about this type of topic, but I always try to I'm always trying to be as authentic as possible with them, and be as real with them as possible. But just know, like, you are going to mess up. You're going to mess up, and you're going to fall on your face pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
But what's beautiful about this life, this Christian life, is that you will be given grace.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are not given grace, then you are not in the right place. You need to find somewhere, you need to find someone, you need to find that mentor that'll help you, that won't judge you, but will hold you and know that you are loved. So there is nothing that can push you so far away that God won't love you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that his people shouldn't love you.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes with us too. We need to learn that some people will say things that shouldn't have ever came out of even crossed their minds. Some people are going to do things that is going to hurt you. And we need to learn that sometimes we are going to have to be the bigger person. We're going to have to start that conversation, and and maybe we can't even have the conversation. Just like Aaron said, we're going to have to learn to listen before we talk to them, even though they were in the wrong. But God does that with us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He listens to us moan and groan and complain and curse him up and down. And then he's like, he turns around and he tells you, you are altogether beautiful, beautiful in every way. Like it's, we need to learn to mirror that. And it's so hard, but it is so beautiful seeing the transformation of people, seeing what they were to what they become. It's so beautiful. Um, okay, so what is one piece of advice that you would give our listeners today?
Two things. So you guys are heard. You guys are heard. Please let your voice be heard, right? Because we all have voices. Um, so never feel like you're alone. You're not. Be heard. So there's always going to be somewhere there to help you, one way or the other. So believe that and be kind to ourselves. This has been a year of struggle. I've said it before. The last time we met last week, we're enduring trauma. If you guys look up what trauma is, this is a trauma. This is a traumatic event, right? The pandemic, COVID, everything. This whole year, what transpired this whole year, and we not let's and there's more to it than that, right? We can get into all of it, right? So this has been a hard year. So we need to be kind to ourselves as well.
Yes. And show ourselves some grace.
And show ourselves some grace.
Yes.
Definitely.
Because we tend to be our own worst critic. At least I do. I'm harder on myself than anyone. Um, but I love the fact that you said, your voice is heard. You do have a voice, you do have a story, you do have something that needs to be told or whatever, or talked about. And I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to be on a platform, but it means that your story will help someone,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't think that. And that's the reason why, like, yeah, I'm reaching out to some TikTok people and all of that stuff, but I am finding everyday people to interview, um, to talk to have conversations with, because um, everyone has a story. It's not just the people that are in the spotlight. It's not just the people that are in the news or in the magazines or on your news feed or on your your Instagram or your Twitter or your TikTok. It's not just those people. It's that has a million followers. It's the people that you pass on the sidewalk. And so, yeah, I'm trying to interview some of those people, but I'm also trying to interview people that you may never have heard of if you never turned on this little podcast, video cast, whatever you want to call it. Um, your voice is heard, your voice needs to be heard, and there's people out there that need someone exactly like you. Um, so Mio, thank you for doing this a second time. Will you pray us out?
Okay. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you for this amazing opportunity. And I hope that everyone that heard, they gained something from it. Remember that your voice is heard, Father. Let everyone know that their voice is heard and that to show themselves kindness, mercy and grace. This has been a difficult year, Father. And I hope that everyone out there that's hearing us right now knows that you're with them. Amen.
Amen. All right. And guys, thank you for listening. And as always, I hope you take what you've heard, go out there, break down those walls, and start to gain authentic perspective and start filling in that gap so we can start to heal, start to feel, and start to love each other again. All right. Until next time, stay phenomenal. Love you all.